Hello, I'm J. Jermaine Bay of Elodium Moorish Pradium, Ante, Colorado. The acronym is AMPAC. I'm the Chief Judge of Consular Court. Today is Class 169. Class 169. What did we learn in Class 168? Well, we started learning about the power of treaties, right? Treaty language is a supreme law of the land. Treaty language supersedes constitutional language. A constitution recognizes treaties as being the supreme language of a contract between two separate countries who are coming together to do what? To pen a contract, whether it's a bilateral contract or a multilateral contract, i.e. whether it's a bilateral treaty or a multilateral treaties. All treaties are contracts, all right? So we're learning that when governmental officials come together at a round table and they sign a treaty, that treaty, from a political perspective, can change the political status of a country, and that treaty can change the political status of the people. Now, keep in mind, in Class 168, what do we learn? We started learning about the 1848 treaty between who? The United States of America and the Mexicans, which was what? The Hidalgo-Guadalupe Treaty of 1848. And what happened with a pen? The United States of America and what? The United States of Mexico got together and signed a bilateral treaty that turned around and naturalized the Mexicans and made the Mexicans Americans 1 year later, 366 days later, according to Articles 8 and 9 of said Treaty of Guadalupe, turned Mexicans into Americans. Not only did it do that, it recognized the fact that Mexico could no longer claim any sovereignty north of the Rio Grande River, right? North of the Rio River, because Rio means what? The river. So that one treaty of 1848 changed the status of a country and its sovereign jurisdiction, and it changed the status of people's nationality. Therefore, nationality doesn't have anything to do with blood pedigree. It has everything to do with, does that country recognize you as one of its nationals or not? You see, Mexico no longer recognized those Mexicans who were north of the Rio as Mexicans anymore by the time 1849 rolled around. And then the United States of America also did not recognize the Mexicans who were north of the Rio River as being Mexicans either. They started recognizing them as Americans, correct? Right. So that's what a treaty can do. Who signed a treaty? Two countries, and they're who? Officials. The powers in the pen of an official. You must be the duly elected or duly appointed official of the country in order to fully execute a treaty. And you must be the what? Duly elected or appointed official in order to do what? Negotiate the treaty terms and conditions, meaning you get caught up in court, who's the only person can enforce the language of a treaty on your behalf? Only the officials of the country, because it was only the officials who could draft and sign the treaty in the first place. Treaties are non-self-executing, meaning the average citizen or national cannot enforce the language of a treaty. Only the officials of the country can do that on your behalf. So when you walk into court and you start saying, well, I'm enforcing the treaties, guess what? That's void ab initio, void from the beginning. You are not authorized to enforce a treaty without the express permission, written permission of the government itself. And Moors were never taught this. So what else did we learn in Class 168? Well, we started learning about how the Sultan recognized the 13 colonies The 13 colonies had what? British subjects who no longer want to be British. They want to be Americans. They want to change their nationality because they were seeking asylum and refuge to stay in this continent as immigrants with an E. They were seeking permanent residence, right? What does immigrant with an E mean? It means when you leave your country to go to another country's sovereign jurisdiction, and you like to seek what? Permanent residence. So the people of the 13 colonies who were chiefly British no longer want to be recognized as British anymore. They want to be Americans. So who granted them the right to be Americans? It was the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco, Sidi Mohammed. But what is it that he really had to recognize first? Who did the Sultan have to recognize first? He had to recognize a country. The recognition is of a country, not of the people. But we, the people, right, represent the country. So the country and the people are one. But when the recognition takes place from one sovereign head of state to another sovereign head of state, they're recognizing each other's what? Country name. And everything that's encompassed within said country, whether it's the people, property, etc. So what we're learning in class 168 is that the Sultan recognized the 13 colonies that come together as a union of union states. They were the North Atlantic Union States for the most part. Then they changed their name and made it more proper and said they're the United States of America. How could they say they were the United States of America? Because the Sultan recognized them as being able to use the namesake of American. It doesn't say the United People of America. It says the United what? States. The states are recognizing each other. All right, so in class 168, we learned that in the beginning of the 13 colonies' history, they wanted to change their nationality to American. The Sultan allowed them to do so. And then the Sultan turned around and commissioned France and one of its officials or one of its people by a gentleman by the name of what? Mr. Adalbert Kaye. He was commissioned directly by the Sultan himself to go and represent the 13 colonies, to be the consul on their behalf. To help them do what? To draft a treaty. That way the Sultan would review it, accept it, sign it, and ratify it. So we learned in class 168, the Sultan finally did that by the year what? 1786. But the Sultan was expecting all that to take place in when? 1777, but certainly no later than 1778. Because the Sultan recognized the 13 colonies on December 20th, 1777. They didn't finally sign the Treaty of Peace and Friendship until when? June 28th, 1786. So it took them quite a long time to sign a treaty. Why was the 13 colonies procrastinating? Well, for a variety of reasons. They no longer want to come on a monarch, and they no longer want to pay taxes to anyone, because if you're paying taxes to another country for protections, that means what? You come under their protection, that means you come under their sovereignty. See, the 13 colonies came under the protections of the Sultan, which means they came under the jurisdiction and sovereignty of the Empire of Morocco. The same way the British subjects came under the Great Britain's sovereignty and jurisdiction. That's why the 13 colonies were paying taxes to Great Britain. The only thing they did is exchange monarchs. So they were dragging their feet because they did not want to pay the taxes. And they did not want to recognize someone having sovereignty and jurisdiction over them. But obviously they turned around and signed the treaty. Not only did they sign the treaty in 1786, they turned around 50 years later and renewed the same treaty with the same language. The only thing they changed was Article 25 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Article 25 gave it a right, treaty right, for either the parties to petition to terminate the treaty after 50 years. That's the only article changed in 1836. So 50 years after that, what happened? From 1836 to what? What's 50 years past 1836? 86. So by 1886, the treaty turned around and renewed itself automatically. And it's been perpetual ever since 1886. That bilateral treaty, right? And this is why the United States State Department says the bilateral treaty is unbroken. Why? Because the United States has never exercised their right under Article 25 to terminate the treaty. The Sultans never set forth any type of letter to terminate the treaty either. So neither the Empire Morocco as a country, nor the United States of America as a country and its heads of state have never sent a letter to terminate the treaty according to Article 25 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And that's why it's still perpetual until this very day of July 2025. Now, the United States turned around and signed even more treaties with the Sultan. What was the next treaty they signed after? They signed what? The 1880 Treaty of Madrid, which was a multilateral treaty. Still recognizing the sovereign is who? The Empire of Morocco, his master Sultan, and the Moorish government. Then the United States of America turned around and signed another multilateral treaty called what? The Act of Algeciras of 1906. So far, they've signed 4 treaties. Then what happens next? After 1906, the Sultan signs a treaty with France called the Treaty of Fez of 1912. In that bilateral treaty, the Sultan gave France, once again, the right to be the consul, to be a representative of the Empire of Morocco, to go out and get into friendly relations with the other European countries to make sure France started doing what? Collecting the taxes, etc., and reestablishing consular court. So after 1912, the Treaty of Fez, what happened thereafter? By 1917, the United States of America recognized the fact that France had the pen to oversee all the Moorish treaties and to oversee the entire Moorish Empire, commonly known as what? The Empire of Morocco. So now, the United States of America has recognized how many treaties? 5. Got a Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? 17 what? 86. Then is renewed 1836 Treaty of Peace and Friendship. That's the second treaty. What's the third? Treaty of Madrid 1880, which was a convention. What's the fourth? The 1906 Act of Algeciras, which is a multilateral treaty. What's the fifth? They turn around and recognize the fact that France had the jurisdiction. So the United States of America recognized the treaty of the Treaty of Fez and its terms and conditions. What's the 6th treaty that the United States of America signed that has something to do with the Sultan and the Moorish Empire? It's called the Charter of the United Nations. You see, in 1945, when the Charter was fully ratified, France was still controlling the pen of the Treaty of Fez. France did not give up the pen until what year? 1956. So in 1945, they still had the jurisdiction over all European countries. So the United States of America was not given permission to fully ratify the Charter of the United Nations without France's granting power. But who gave France the power to tell the United States of America they couldn't do it? The Sultan. But lo and behold, United States of America turned around and allowed France to be a part of the Charter of the United Nations. So it went from the powerful four to the powerful five, which is commonly known as the Permanent Security Council. At first, when the charter was being established, they said there was only 4 powerful countries, and that was who? United States of America, Great Britain, who else? China, right? Who else? Russia. At the time, it was USSR, the Soviet Union. France wasn't even in the picture. But France said, did you forget, United States of America, that we have the sovereign power that the Sultan gave us? You can't establish no charter of the United Nations without the permission of France, because the Charter of the United Nations is an attachment to what? The Empire Morocco. And no one can sign contracts in the jurisdiction of the Empire Morocco without the Empire Morocco's government granting those powers, if in fact you're signing treaties that deal with what? Peace and security and taxes, etc. So France still had the pen. Even though they got beat down after World War II, they still had the pen. It didn't make a difference that they were politically weak from getting out of a war. The fact is they were what? Very, very strong contractually speaking. They had the pen of a contract. Politically weak, but contractually strong. And everybody had to adhere to the contract, because contracts matter. Why? Because treaty supreme law of the land. Well, who's controlling the treaty? France. Therefore, they were what? They had the supreme status. So next you know, France's name is added to the Charter of the United Nations. Now it became the permanent 5 instead of the permanent 4. Now if you look at the Charter of the United Nations, you'll see that most of the stuff is written in French and then English. France had the position of sovereignty over English. So French came before English. All because of what? France was represented the Sultan and the Empire Morocco and the Moors. We'll talk about that more today. I'll show you today how the Sultan of Morocco is the main person who supported the Charter of the United Nations in 1944. Before it was fully ratified, it was the Sultan who gave his granting powers for the for the Charter of the United Nations to come into what? Full fruition. For it to be fully ratified. We'll talk about that today. All right, so as we start getting class 169, please understand that treaty is supreme law of the land. But what's the problem? Treaties are written between 2 countries, so a country is the legal personality. The countries are the 2 legal personalities on the contract. Those are 2 people. And unfortunately, the Moors failed at understanding the distinction between a country and a continent. This is why we've been failing. We'll talk about that today. The distinction between a country and a continent. We got to talk about it. Because the Moors are all what? Taxes. See, the Sultans was collecting taxes day 1 from the United States of America. Day one. But the taxes, as we learned in class 168, who was the Sultan signing contracts with? States. Didn't it say that? He wanted to sign contracts with states. States, another word for state is country. Because the word country represents what? The highest status of a state. Because there's all types of states that could be internal states. For example, you got Germany. Germany's the country, but the internal state is what? Berlin. So treaties are signed between two states, but it's really the what? External state called the country. And this is where Moors dropped the ball. We did not become the competent authority, i.e. the elected and appointed officials that sit in the seats of our country. Let's get into the class. All right. So as the Moors know, I always open up the Constitution. The Constitution is paramount. What Constitution do I have up here? Was the Constitution for the Empire of Morocco. Right? This is just the cover page. But it's 106 articles. All right? Now, when was the Constitution signed? It was signed by the Sultan, which is head of state, on June 3rd, 2024, right? Making it fully ratified, because who signed it first? Okay. Who signed the Constitution first? Okay. Well, first of all, it was drafted, the Constitution was drafted on February 1st, 2024. Then it was signed by the Sarajas on February 29th, 2024. Who are Sarajas? Those are the legislators, more specifically speaking, the Speaker of the House of each of the internal states. So the Speaker, the legislative branch, signed the Constitution. Well, who are the legislators? Nothing but women. In the Empire of Morocco, the legislative branch is nothing but women. So the women signed it on February 29, 2024. What type of women? Legislators who are what? Elected. Number 3, who signed it next? Who signed it? Signed by the Wazirs on February 29, 2024. Who are the Wazirs? Those are the governors. So you had governors and you had legislators who signed it on February 29, 2024. Isn't that a leap year? February 29th is a leap year, right? So that date, what did we do on that date? What did we do? We leaped. What did we leap to? Back into the sovereign jurisdiction of the Empire of Morocco, because we were making steps to do what? Become the de jure competent authority of the government, and to reclaim our nationality of being Moroccans. Again, to make Moroccan nationality what? In full force and effect, and no longer what? Obsolete. Moroccan nationality is no longer obsolete. It's now what? Absolute. What makes it absolute? The Constitution. So the governor signed it, legislators signed it. Number 4, then it was election day for the Sultan, May 12th, 2024, which was what? Mother's Day. Because the mother is who? The Empire of Morocco. So it was all about her. The Empire of Morocco is female in character. So on Mother's Day, we elected the Sultan to bring the family back together. Listen. Number 5, Declaration of Independence by the Sultan, May 13, 2024. So the Sultan declared independence from who? The colonialism of the United States of America and the other signatory powers to our treaties. So the Sultan declared the independence of what? The country and its people. And the country is an empire. It crosses over continents. And we declare the country's independence as well as the people's independence. For the people have a right to do what? Pledge their allegiance and proclaim what? That they're repatriating back to the state to be what? Patriots. It's patriotism. You'll no longer be expatriates. It's repatriation back to the state. The Sultan declares that you have a right to come back and declare your allegiance. To what? The country. But the country also has what? A constitution. So you're pledging allegiance to the country, but you're pledging allegiance also to the Constitution, because that's where you're taking your oath. You're taking your oath and allegiance to the Constitution. And the Constitution represents the state, i.e., the country. Listen. Number 6, the Constitution was signed by the Sultan on June 3rd, 2024. Giving it the full weight of the state, because now the head of state just signed the Constitution. It brought it full circle. So you had the governors, the House members, and then head of state signed the Constitution. All right, and then from there, what happened? There was a public inauguration of the Sultan and all the other government officials on June 8, 2024. But first we had to seat who? The Sultan, who's head of state. Then from there, we started to seat everybody else who's in the 3 branches of government. You got the executive branch, legislative branch, or what? Judicial branch. We sat the branch heads and other officials. They were elected. All right. So then number 8, the Constitution was promulgated, right? So it was promulgated to the empire by the Sultan on June 8, 2024. Well, what was promulgated? That the Sultan told everybody through the public inauguration that the Empire of Morocco was back, what? Reconvened. That promulgation, it was the Sultan telling the whole world the Empire of Morocco is now reconvened. It's starting to based in its self-determination, it's starting to do what? Self-govern. Listen. Then number 9, the Constitution was deposited at the United Nations on June 13th, 2024. So we have to deposit it with the United Nations according to what? The procedure following instructions under Article 102 of the Charter of the United Nations. So we deposit with the Secretariat. Because a constitution is just like a treaty. If you do not notify the United Nations of your public law of a country, then it does not exist. There's no such thing as what? A secret treaty, and there's no such thing as a secret constitution. Secret constitutions and secret treaties have no standing in law. So we deposited the Constitution with the United Nations to let them know about our Declaration of Independence, that we have a Constitution, etc., and that we recognize the provisions of the 111 articles of the Charter. And we also recognize the provisions of what? The International Court of Justice statutes and its 70 articles. In other words, we recognize international law. This must be understood. We're checking boxes. I'm taking my time here for a reason. All of this matters because the Moorish Americans and black people and Hebrew Israelites and African Americans have never, ever done any of these steps. That's the truth. That's not an exaggeration. Okay, then we gave notice to who? Number 9. Then we deposited the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, etc., deposited at the United Nations on June 13, 2024. Number 10, notification to the United States of America, France, United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden, Austria, Hungary, Italy, Belgium, Russia, His Catholic Majesty, of the Holy See, which is the Vatican, the Kingdom of Morocco, and Canada on June 13, 2024. We gave them all notice that we have declared our independence, right, as what? A country. And we declared our independence as what? A people. Therefore, it's we the people. Because both the people and the country become what? One. And all these steps were taken. All right? This is very important to understand. Very important for the Moors to understand. All right. We're trying to let you know what we've done for the Moors. This is for the Moors. All right? Now, obviously, the Moors would need an internal constitution. And for an example, this is a constitution of Lordi and Moorish Children ante Colorado, which was drafted and ratified on February 28, 2021. So we had our internal states before we even had the constitution of the Empire of Morocco. But all our internal states came together as what? The United States. So the United Moorish States, the United States, came together to recognize what? The country called the Empire of Morocco, which is who? Our mother. You must understand what I'm saying to you. The United States came together to recognize one state, so we become one people, one flag, one nationality, one seal, one constitution. Listen. All right. Okay. In class 168, we were finishing up by reading a letter, of the office of the historian, well, not the office of the historian, but we were reading some content on the United States website called the U.S. Embassy and Consulates in Morocco. And we were talking about the relationship, the history of the United States and Morocco. And we started to dive in a little bit more about what was commonly known as the United States, U.S. Morocco relations, the beginning. Right? So in 168, we started learning about that. Right? So we click on that. And quickly, what were we learning right off the top in the first paragraph? We started talking about what? It was all about the Sultan. It's all about the Sultan, right? And the Sultan wanted to do what? Collect taxes. You see that? The Sultan wanted to collect taxes. Why did he want to collect taxes? As what? A basic source of revenue. You see that? A basic source of revenue. So the only reason why the Sultan was recognized in the 13 colonies for what? For a revenue source. That's it. It's the only reason why. And this is why to this very day of July 2025, the United States of America still owes taxes to the Empire of Morocco, because since day one of their inception, the only reason why they exist is only to do what? Pay taxes to the Empire of Morocco and get into other foreign relations of trade, etc. But what was the number one reason why the Sultan recognized them? About money, revenue. That must be understood. It's about commercial enterprise. Listen. All right, so what do I have up here? So this is Founders Online, right? The National Archives of the United States. So what I have up here is the treaty, right? A peace and friendship that was signed between the Sultan, which was head of state of the Empire of Morocco, and with the 13 colonies of 1786, right? June 28, 1786. So immediately once they signed the treaty, they were obligated to start paying the taxes, but the Sultan made sure that the 13 colonies, right, and their people were no longer what? Harassed by the Moors. Because the Moors were taking their items off their ships, and the Americans want to bring the taxes directly to the Sultan, as well as whatever trade they were getting into with the Sultan. Right, so now we go down to Article 6 to show everyone that the Americans came under the protections of the Sultan because he was keeping his promise as long as the Americans paid their taxes. So, good brother Joseph from the top.
Article 6. If any Moor shall bring citizens of the United States or their effects to his majesty, the citizen shall immediately be set at liberty and the effects restored, and in like manner, if any Moor not a subject of these dominions shall make prize of any of the citizens of America or their effects, and bring them into any of the ports of his majesty, they shall be immediately released, as they will then be considered as under his majesty's protection.
So the Americans ended up coming under protections of the Sultan, right? So the Americans, which were the citizens of the United States of America, right, came under the protections of the Sultan. And the Sultan told the Moors, say, you Moors, I want you to immediately release the Americans, right? So you can clearly see that he's talking about the Moors. Here's the Moors. The Moor is a short title for what? Moroccans, right? The Sultan's Moroccan, the Moors are Moroccan, and they were dealing with the citizens of the United States of America, which they would now be Americans. And the Sultan put the Americans under his protections. Therefore, the Empire of Morocco had sovereignty and jurisdiction over both the country called the United States of America and the American citizens. You see? And then you go down to Articles what? 20 and 21, and the Sultan says, okay, if there's a dispute between the Moors, right? There's a dispute between the Moors and the Americans. Whose court do you use? Well, you use the consular court of the Empire of Morocco. Consular court. You see, so not only is the Sultan putting them under protection, the Americans under protection, because Moors are not Americans. The Americans are who? George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, who else? Thomas Jefferson, etc. Those are the Americans who were recognized by who? The Sultan. All the way to the extent that the Sultan put the Americans under his direct protections. So in the Articles 20 and 21, it reads as follows, good brother Joseph.
Article 20. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any disputes with each other, the council shall decide between the parties. And whenever the council shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decision, it shall be immediately granted to him. Article 21. If any citizen of the United States shall kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered to the counsel assisting at the trial. And if any delinquent shall make his escape, the council shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatever.
All right, so in other words, consular court had the compulsory jurisdiction to settle any dispute between a Moor and a citizen of the United States. So what's the proper venue? Consular court. You see? So if you're talking venue, you're talking jurisdiction. But if you're talking jurisdiction, you're also talking sovereignty. So who had the top sovereign position? The Empire of Morocco. Therefore, the Empire of Morocco had what? Jurisdiction to use what? Its courts, which is consular court, to settle any dispute. So you don't use the United States courts. You don't use their internal municipal courts. You don't use their state courts. You don't use their federal courts. You don't use their Supreme Court. What court do you bring your dispute to? Consular court. Of what? The country. You see? So this is what the Sultan was saying in 1786. All right? Taking my time. Okay, listen. All right, so that Treaty of Peace and Friendship got renewed in 1836, right? Same standards. It was 25 articles. The only article change was 25. That said either parties could terminate, right? So the United States of America and its Americans turn around and sign another treaty, Treaty of Madrid, 1880. Multilateral treaty, so they're still recognizing the Empire of Morocco. They're still recognizing the Sultan. They're still recognizing the Moors, right? Then you got 1906, the United States of America signed a multilateral treaty in 1906, right? This is the fourth treaty they've signed, still recognizing the Sultan, still recognizing the Empire of Morocco, still recognizing the Moors, right? Then they turn around, the United States of America recognized the fact that France in 1912 turned around and signed a treaty with the Sultan because the Sultan said, well, I'm going to let France train these Moors, get these Moors up to speed. In the meantime, the Sultan was like, where's my taxes? So the Sultan wanted his money sooner rather than later. So while the Moors were supposed to be ramping up and getting back into the Moorish government and getting going again, the Sultan still needed France to go and collect the taxes for him. So the United States turned around and recognized this Treaty of Madrid, this Treaty of Fez of 1912. Therefore, the United States of America is now recognizing another treaty, the fifth treaty. Could they recognize France was operating on behalf of the Sultan, Empire of Morocco, and who else? The Moorish government. Right? Because the Moors are listed in this treaty as who? The subjects. Who are the subjects? The Moors. But what's the proper nationality of the Moors? Listen. What's the proper nationality of the Moors? How did France write down the Moors' nationality? Okay, you go down to what? Article 6. Brother Joseph?
Article 6. The diplomatic and consular agents of France shall be charged with the representation and protection of Moroccan subjects and interests abroad.
So France was responsible for who? Moroccan subjects. Did it say American subjects? No. Moors are not Americans. Moors are not Canadians. Moors are not British. Moors are not Frenchmen. Moors are not Spaniards. Moors are not Portuguese, etc. Moors are what? Moroccans. France had a responsibility to provide representation as the consul agent and protections of the Moroccan subjects. Did it say Moorish Americans? No.
No.
Did it say Hebrew Israelites? No. Did it say Indians?
No.
No. Did it say Negroes, blacks, and coloreds? No. The treaty protecting who? Moroccans. This is why the Moors have failed. You don't even know your own nationality. We'll talk about that today. So the United States recognized this treaty as well. Therefore, if the United States recognized this treaty, then the United States recognized that the Moors are what? Moroccans. You see? What came up next? The Charter of the United Nations, 1945, was a multilateral treaty that initially about 40, 48, maybe 52 states, i.e. countries, signed by 1945. Right? This is another treaty. And within said treaty, Chapter 11 says what? It's all about non-self-governing territories, that the interests of the inhabitants, the natural inhabitants, their interest is what? Paramount. The United States of America agreed not to abuse the natural inhabitants while they're going through their varying stages of advancement of what? Decolonization. So this is another treaty. And they know France also was a part of this treaty. And they also know the Sultan also recognized this treaty. We'll talk about that. So the United States of America has recognized 6 treaties that the Sultan was affiliated to. 6 treaties. And I want to use the United States of America as an example because this is the main country that most people are familiar with, right? Now, obviously, you got the other 12 signatory powers, or shall I say 11. Now, listen, now does it make sense why France in the International Court of Justice could bring United States of America into court because France was giving the sovereign and power and jurisdiction to be a plaintiff? How could France bring a suit against the United States of America as plaintiff? Why was France not found as being plaintiff in error? How could France try to enforce Moroccan laws against the United States of America if France wasn't a representative of Morocco? See, they were appointed, right? Or what? Elected officials because the Sultan commissioned it. So they were the duly authorized authority on behalf of the Sultan to enforce the treaties. Therefore, they had the power, the pen, to be the proper plaintiff. They were not plaintiff in error. And they brought it to a proper venue of the International Court of Justice. But in this case, you'll learn, I'll show it to you another day, but France did use consular court first before they brought this dispute to the ICJ. But the ICJ told France, man, those are not Moors sitting in the consular court. Those are Frenchmen. So the ICJ kicked the notion that was a consular court because it wasn't Moors. It was Frenchmen sitting there acting like they were the Moorish government. So France did at least try to use consular court, but it failed. And they had to bring it to the ICJ. Right? So listen, I'm building up. Listen, be patient with me. So the case was case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco. So the United States of America is in Morocco. And so is France. France is in Morocco. Right? And that was what? August 27th, 1952. Listen, as a point of interest, I think it's important to note who were the judges during the case. Let's get a visual of who were the judges and what countries were these judges from. Now keep in mind, when judges sit at the ICJ, they're what? Impartial. They become neutral. But you cannot ignore the fact that they did come from a particular country. Okay, Brother Drake, from the top.
France versus United States of America, cited as case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco. 1950 to 1952, judgment August 27, 1952. The 11 ICJ judges were from Great Britain, France, the United States of America, Yugoslavia, Norway, Egypt, Canada, China, Brazil, India, and Uruguay as follows.
All right, so here's the image of the first judge.
Arnold McNair of Great Britain, IC judge from 1945 to 1955. He was the president from 1952 to 1955. Later, he became the first president of the European Court of Human Rights in 1959.
Now, let's pause right there. So this Arnold McNair of Great Britain, he was sitting at the ICJ, he was a judge from 1945 to 1955. So he was one of the judges sitting there doing what? He was a judging the case of France versus United States of America. Okay. Later, right after 1955, later he became the first president of the European Court of Human Rights in 1959. So what does that tell you about the philosophy and psychology of this particular judge? He's all about human rights. When you look at the background of Judge Arnold McNair, he was all about enforcing contracts. He was a contract specialist. He said that judges shouldn't be judges until they understand contract law. This is how he strongly felt. And he was big on human rights. So it was all about human rights for him and contracts. It's very important to note. Which means when he sat down to look at the case of France versus United States of America, he had to be impartial because he is a judge coming from Great Britain. He could very easily rule against the Moorish Treaties for personal reasons, but he understood contract law. And he said the treaty is supreme law of the land, and we have to abide by this contract. And if these Moors had certain rights in the contract, the Moors had what? Human rights. This is very important to note. Now, obviously, you can look at his prima facie, you know, he's what we commonly refer to as European. Let's continue. Brother Dre.
Jules Bassevant of France, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1949.
All right, so you got a Frenchman. Okay, that's the French judge, right? He's the shorter guy. All right, so France is in the house, right? France is sitting up there. Who else?
Green Hackworth of the United States of America, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1961.
All right, there he is. Right? Okay, let's continue.
Milovan Zoric of Yugoslavia, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1958.
There he is. Okay. All right, next.
Helge Klestad of Norway, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1961.
Okay, he was there during the case of France versus United States of America. All right, and he's from where? Norway. Okay, let's continue.
Abdel Badawi of Egypt, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1965.
All right, so we got a judge from Egypt. There he is, right, of the commonly known as the Arab states, correct? Okay. All right, let's just try to get a visual. Let's put some faces to the judges.
John Reed of Canada, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1958.
Okay, there he is, right? Canadian, even though the Canadians recognize the British crown as their head of state. So it's almost like Canada and Great Britain got two judges on the bench. All right, continuing. All right, so next.
Sumo of China, ICJ judge from 1946 to 1956.
All right, China's in the house. They're the judge. Right? Okay, next.
Levi Canario of Brazil, ICJ judge from 1951 to 1955.
Okay, so Brazil's in the house. Okay. All right. Next.
Benegal Rao of India, ICJ judge from 1952 to 1953.
Okay. India's in the house. All right, as judge. Okay. Last but not least.
Enrique Armand Ugan of Uruguay, ICJ judge from 1952 to 1961.
Said Uruguay's in the house, but I couldn't find an image of Judge Enrique Armand Ugan. So out of due respect, I just put the flag there. All right. So we had 11 judges. Okay. All right, 11 judges. All right, just to give you a visual. That way you know these judges were ruling over this case. All right. And as you can see, it's just basically Europeans, and you got a couple of people that's got a decent tan. Right? All right. Okay, now, getting back to the top. So it says, France versus United States of America, cited as case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco. The case, the application was received to start the motion in 1950, and the judgment came out in 1952, so it took about 2 years for this case to be finalized. It says, judgment August 27, 1952. To the 11 ICJ judges were from Great Britain, France, United States of America, Yugoslavia, Norway, Egypt, Canada, China, Brazil, India, Uruguay, etc. Right? 11. Okay, so now you at least have a visual. Okay, listen. So what we're going to look at now is the actual summary of the judgment. Right? It's good to look at the summary and the overview. So let's take a look at the summary of the order, the judgment. All right? Okay, so as a refresher, because we've gone over this before, we're going to read all of it. That way we can find out, okay, what was the case about? Here's the ruling. And then we'll talk more about taxes, etc. Because I want to tell the Moors about the taxes. But we have to build up to that conversation. We got to build up. Because taxes are owed to who? The state, i.e. the country. Right? Okay, let's learn about this. Okay, so Brother Dre from top.
Case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco. Judgment of 27 August 1952. The proceedings in the case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco were instituted against the United States by an application of the government of the French Republic. The submissions of the parties related to the following principal points. The application to nationals of the United States of the Residential Decree of December 30th, 1948, by which imports without official allocation of currency, imports from the United States, were in the French zone of Morocco, subjected to a system of licensing control. The extent of the consular jurisdiction which the United States may exercise in the French zone of Morocco, the right to levy taxes on nationals of the United States in Morocco, the question of fiscal immunity, with particular reference to the consumption taxes provided for by the Sharifa Dahir of February 28, 1948. The method of assessing the value under Article 95 of the General Act of Algeciras of 1906 of goods imported into Morocco. In its judgment, the court held, 1, unanimously, the Residential Decree of December 30th, 1948 exempted France from control of imports, while the United States was subjected to such control. It thus involved a discrimination in favor of France. This differential treatment was not compatible with the Act of Algeciras, by virtue of which the United States can claim to be treated as favorably as France, as far as economic matters in Morocco are concerned. The French submissions that this decree is in conformity with the economic system which is applicable to Morocco must therefore be rejected. 2, unanimously, with regard to consular jurisdiction in the French zone of Morocco, the United States is entitled to exercise such jurisdiction in accordance with the terms of its treaty with Morocco of September 16, 1836, that is to say, in all disputes, civil or criminal, between citizens or protégés of the United States. 3, by 10 votes to 1, it is also entitled to exercise consular jurisdiction in all cases, civil or criminal, brought against citizens or protégés of the United States to the extent...
Pause. Don't forget, who are the protégés? The Moors. Remember what I told you, that's codified language. Because in the Treaty of Madrid, it called it what? Right of protections in Morocco. Isn't that the title? Right of protections in Morocco. So protections is another word for what? Protégé means the protected ones. The protected ones. You see that? That must be understood. So every time you see protégés, that's the Moors. But also remember, the Moors have been naturalized to be what? Citizens. So that's why they say or. Citizens or protégés. Who are they talking about? Moors. Moors have been naturalized, or Moors who maybe have a higher status because maybe they work for the federal government of the United States. But both of these terminologies, citizen or protégé, they're only talking about Moors. They're not talking about George Washington's people when they say citizens. Moors have been naturalized to be called citizens of the United States. You must understand this. And the ICJ is saying, yes, the United States has jurisdiction over these Moors who are now citizens. Yes, the United States has civil and criminal jurisdiction over these Moors that are protégés. You got to catch what's happening here. Okay, let's continue, because this is about jurisdiction over Moors, and this is about taxes. All right, continue.
Required by the provisions of the Act of Algeciras relating to consular jurisdiction. 4, by 6 votes to 5. But the other submissions of the United States relating to consular jurisdiction are rejected. It is not entitled to exercise consular jurisdiction in other cases in the French zone of Morocco. Its rights in this connection, which were acquired solely by the effect of the most favored nation clause, came to enable the termination of Great Britain of all its rights and privileges of a capitulatory character by the Franco-British Convention of 1937. 5. Unanimously, the United States had contended that its nationals were not subject, in principle, to the application of Moroccan laws unless these laws had received its prior assent. There is, however, no provision in any of the treaties conferring upon the United States such a right linked with a regime of capitulations which can only exist as a corollary of consular jurisdiction, so that if the cooperation of the United States consular courts is required to enforce a law, see 2 and 3 above, the assent of the United States is essential. But subject to this, the contention of the United States is ill-founded. If the application of a law to citizens of the United States without its assent is contrary to international law, any dispute which may arise therefrom should be dealt with according to the ordinary methods for the settlement of international disputes. 6. By 6 votes to 5, no treaty provides any basis for the claim of the United States to fiscal immunity for its citizens, nor can such an immunity, capitulatory in origin, be justified by the effect of the most favored nation clause, since no other state enjoys it for the benefit of its nationals. 7. By 7 votes to 4, as to the consumption taxes imposed by the Dahir of February 28, 1948, these are payable on all goods, whether imported into Morocco or produced there. They are not, therefore, customs duties, the maximum rate for which was fixed at 12.5% by the signatory powers of the Act of Algeciras. Citizens of the United States are no more exempt from these taxes than from any others. Number 8, by 6 votes to 5, Article 95 of the Act of Algeciras lays down no strict rule for the valuation of imported goods. A study of the practice since 1906 and of the preliminary work of the Conference of Algeciras leads the court to...
Okay, well, I don't have that continued page. All right, let's just pause right there, okay? So what have we learned so far? Well, first of all, the citizens of the United States are no more exempt from these taxes than from any other. So the United States citizens are not exempt from paying taxes to who? The Empire of Morocco. Okay, listen, pause right there. Pause right there. Let's go back to the name of the case. Who are the parties? This is important to the Moors to understand, because we've been failing as a people. The case is between who? France versus who? The United States of America. It was a country versus a country. But it should have said what? Empire of Morocco versus the United States of America. But since France was given the power to be a representative, it said France versus the United States of America. What's my point? So who's paying the taxes? The person's name is what? United States of America. Who is the United States of America paying the taxes to? The Empire of Morocco. Does the United States of America owe taxes directly to the Moors? No. United States of America as a legal personality owe taxes directly to the Empire of Morocco as another legal personality. So the United States of America owe taxes to the Empire of Morocco. These are two legal personalities called countries. But then the human beings who sit in the chair of government are the ones facilitating all this. But when the government of the United States writes the check They write the check to who? The Empire of Morocco is a name. Who cashes the check? The government cashes the check because they're the representative of the Empire of Morocco. So the Moorish government cashes the check in the name of the Empire of Morocco. So the United States of America, as a country, and its government, does its government owe a check to somebody called black?
No.
No. Does the United States of America as a country and its government officials owe a check to somebody called Negro and colored? No. Because Negro and colored and black are not countries. Does the United States of America as a country and its government owe taxes to somebody call themselves Moorish American? No, because Moorish American is not what? A country. Does the United States of America as a country and its government going to write a check to somebody call themselves Hebrew Israelite? No, because Hebrew Israelite is not a country. Now watch this. Trick question. Does the United States of America and its government write a check out to somebody and say they're Indian? No. What time out? They can write a check to somebody, a country called what? India. Because India is a country. And the nationality of the people of India is what? Indian. So the only damn Indians that would get a check from the United States of America from a taxation perspective would be the people that are Indian of India. Everybody else that call themselves Indian is what? An adjective. It's a description and not a nationality. There's nobody else on planet Earth that has the nationality of Indian other than people who come from India. This must be understood. So back to the board. A country is trying to collect taxes from a country. And it's a country, the United States of America owes taxes to a country. It's a country on country dispute. This is where Moore's been dropping the ball. We're going to talk about that a little bit deeper today, the foolishness of the Moors. We got to blame ourselves. Listen. Okay. Now that I'm proving to you that the United States of America has to owe taxes, they owe taxes, right? Because remember now, we talked about in class 168 that the Sultan only recognized them so they could pay taxes starting what? 1777. Here it is, we're in a case of 1952, and the United States of America is still responsible for paying what? Taxes. Listen, what do I have up here? Okay. One's got to pay attention. What I have up here is the Empire Morocco flag, got the 5-pointed star, red flag, right, which is a portion of the flag, right? And what? In harmony, or it's transitioning, is showing the United States of America's flag. These two are tied at the hip through what? A treaty. It's a bilateral and multilateral treaties that tie these two country flags together. It's binding. They call it binding. But pay attention. So the United States of America owes taxes to who? This is the words I'm using. I'm talking to legal personality. The United States of America is a country. It owes taxes to what? Another country called the Empire of Morocco. Correct? Yes. So why has the United States of America been giving taxes to the country called the Empire of Morocco? This is a contractual obligation. Even the ICJ said it. It's because no one of the Empire of Morocco, there was no one sitting in the office since 1956. No government. Guess who else was missing? Listen. There was no people. There was no population, no people that were Moroccans, that were Moors. of the Empire of Morocco. Are there Moroccans of the Kingdom of Morocco? Yes. But is the name Kingdom of Morocco on the treaties? No. So yes, there are Moroccans of the Kingdom of Morocco, but the contract says it's the Empire of Morocco and its nationals. Therefore, the Empire of Morocco has been in the absence of a government and in the absence of people. Even though the treaty is binding, but the United States of America didn't have nobody to write the check out to who could cash the check. Because the United States of America could write the check to the Empire of Morocco, but guess what? The check would collect dust because who's they supposed to give it to? Who was the head of state of the Empire of Morocco since 1956 up until 2023? Nobody. Who was the Moorish government of the three branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial branch? Who were the elected or appointed officials of the Empire of Morocco since 1956 up until 2023? Nobody. There was no treasury of the Empire of Morocco since 1956. So where was the check supposed to be deposited if the Empire of Morocco didn't have a treasury since 1956? Listen to me. You must understand the modus operandi of colonists and obstructionists. The United States of America has been getting away with this. As an example, I'm only using their name. It's the other European states too. They can say, guess what? The treaty is unbroken, right? They can say, yeah, we never said the treaty was broken, but the treaty is between who? One country and another country. They never said the treaty was broken. Between two countries. But the relations was broken between what? The country's two governments. Because the United States of America for 250 years has had both their country, government, and people. The Empire of Morocco has its country, but it hasn't had a government and no people since 1956. So you listen to me. So what is a colonist was coming on their what? Psychology, right? And philosophy. See, the philosophy is an idea. That's philosophy, right? Then the psychology, two separate words, philosophy, psychology. Philosophy is the idea. The psychology is what? The strategy and then execution. Philosophy is the first thing, it's the idea. And then from an idea, it turns into what? Strategy, then execution. So first is idea, then it's strategy, and then execution, the act. Philosophy, right? Psychology. So the philosophy of the colonist is to ensure that the Moors never reestablish the government and reclaim their Moroccan nationality. This is the entire idea of suppressing and oppressing a people to keep them from repatriating, because Moors right now have been naturalized as Americans. The idea is to keep them from pledging allegiance to their country and then establishing what? Government and then having people. That's the modus operandi of a criminal. To keep people from pledging allegiance to their country and establishing a government. Because if they had a government and people, then they could collect what? The taxes and cash the check. So you must understand, what is the United States as an example? What are they specializing in? Separation of families. The political foreign policy of the United States, as an example, is to separate families. So the first thing that happened to the Moors was what? The Moors were naturalized. Right? Isn't naturalization means you being what? Separated from your family? So the Moors were separated from the country, the sovereignty and jurisdiction in the Empire of Morocco, and put under the sovereignty and jurisdiction of the United States of America. We were what? Separated from our family because our mother is the Empire of Morocco. Our father's who? The Sultan. So naturalization and slavery was what? Separation of family. You must understand what I'm saying. Look at the United States foreign policy even in the year 2025. What's their foreign policy? Separation of families. They're deporting people, right? Even a few years ago, the United States foreign policy was separating babies from the mothers. While immigrants with an I who were seeking to be immigrants with an E were locked in cages and their babies were separated from them, and now the mother and the baby can't even find each other. Separation of families. This is how you destroy a nation, when you do not keep the family together. See, the Moors did not keep their family together under country, government, nationality. Country, government, we the people, the people. But the United States of America, for 250 years, because keep in mind next year, in the year 2026, will be 250 years since 1776, their Declaration of Independence. So they got a huge milestone year coming up next year on 4th of July. 250 years. They've maintained their country, they've maintained their government, and they've maintained what? Their population. The Empire of Morocco is an ancient country that after 1956, it could not maintain its government, and it could not maintain what? Its population. There hasn't been any Moroccans born in the jurisdiction of the Empire of Morocco since 1956. Technically speaking, we have maybe the firstborn Moroccan child was born around the year 2022. Born to two Moroccan nationals of AMPAC. We'll talk about that another day. We'll show you that this is very sad. There wasn't a Moor born as a Moroccan since 1956 up until around 2022. Because the government of the Empire of Morocco had to recognize the child. Why do you think the current administration of the United States is attacking the birth certificate? Because they don't want the country to recognize the child. It's a separation of families. Colonialism is about separation of families. I can't express that enough. So what happened? First, the Sultans made a terrible decision to let us be naturalized. That separated us from our mother, right? Under what's kind of known as an open adoption. The Sultan said, look, yeah, you can naturalize the Moors and turn them into Americans, but under Article 15 of the Madrid Convention, Article 15, paragraph 1 said the Moors have the right to come back and pledge their allegiance to come back to their family of Moroccans. The Moors hadn't done it since 1880. And they couldn't do it after 1956. Why? Because there was no government to fill out the paperwork with. So the first separation of the family of Moors was when the Sultan allowed the United States of America to adopt us. Then what happened? When we became citizens of the United States of America, the United States tore our families apart even more. How? They were selling us off, breaking up the family. Even further. How else were they tearing up our families? Tearing up with what? Section 8. Section 8 said, oh, the father can't live here in the house. Okay, separation of family. You see, the United States specializes in separating families, while simultaneously they're trying to do what? Maintain their families and destroy other people's families. You got to see what's happening here. So the Moors don't even realize it, but they have been helping the colonists to destroy our own families. We have been co-conspirators in helping the colonists to colonize us. Because we surrendered and kept saying we were Americans. We were agreeing to colonialism and we were agreeing to separation of our own family because we were not coming back to pledge allegiance to the Empire of Morocco. We agreed basically to our own subjugation, knowingly or unknowingly. So you must understand what is their plan? Separation of family. Okay, so what should be our plan as Moors? To restore the family. Right? That's called repatriation. Back to your country. Pledge your allegiance. That is the antidote. Separation of families, reestablishment of family. It's your choice. The doors of the Empire of Morocco are open. Come back and pledge your allegiance. And align yourself, right? Allegiance means to align yourself with your mother and your political father and the rest of your family members, which are the Moroccans. Until then, the United States of America is going to keep you under their jurisdiction. And you'll be separated from your family, which means you're accepting your condition. That must be understood. Okay, why do I bring that up? Okay, listen. The Moors have to understand what is the definition of country. This is where we've been failing. We don't know the difference between a country and a continent. The Moors were taught, we're the true Americans. That's a damn lie. The true Americans are who the Sultan, Sidi Muhammad, recognized, which is George Washington and his people, not Moors. You don't know the difference between a country and a continent because the Moors were told we were named after the continent. Nobody is named after a continent. Everybody gets their nationality from what? A country. The state recognizes your nationality, not the continent. Listen, Noble from top.
Country, the portion of the Earth's surface occupied by an independent nation or people, or the inhabitants of such territory. In its primary meaning, country signifies a place, and in a larger sense, the territory or dominions occupied by a community, or even waste and unpeopled sections or regions of the earth. But its metaphorical meaning is no less definite and well understood. And in common parlance, in historical and geographical writings, in diplomacy, legislation, treaties, and international codes, the word is employed to denote the population, the nation, the state, or the government, having possession and dominion over a territory. Case law. The word country, as used in treaties made by the United States government, insofar as it applies to the United States, means the states of such country.
Pause. All right, thank you. So let's work it backwards. So country, right? We're looking up the word country. Country, the word country, as used in treaties made by the United States government insofar as it applies to the United States, means the states of such country. Wait, time out. So we're looking at the word country. So the word country as used in treaties. Wait, time out. So, only country names are in the treaty. Only country names are in the treaties. Did it say the word continent as used in the treaties? Let's read it again. Did it say as the word continent as used in the treaties? No. People are not named after continents. People are named after what? Countries. And it's only the country name that's on a what? Treaty. So when Moore say, I'm enforcing the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Oh, really? Then tell me the name of the country. And did you pledge your allegiance to said country? If you don't even know the name of the country, which is Empire Morocco, and you didn't pledge your allegiance to said country to be recognized as a national of said country, then how are you saying you're enforcing treaties while simultaneously saying you're what? American. Well, who gave you the nationality of American? It was the United States of America, which was a country, gave you that name. You didn't get your name from a continent. Listen. Let's go back to the definition. Be patient with me. I'm building up. Country, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. The portion of the Earth's surface. So the portion of the Earth's surface, what's the Earth's surface? Right, that's the land. But it's a portion of it. So a country is only a portion of that land. But if someone turn around and tell you you're named after the continent, is that called a portion? No. Continents encompass what? An entire continent. That's why it's a continent and not an island. It's a continent. But countries only encompass what? A portion. Country, the portion of the Earth's surface occupied by an independent nation. Is occupied what? By an independent what? State. Nation. State. Or people, the inhabitants of such territory. Listen, in its primary meaning, country signifies the place, so it's the place, right, of your what? Permanent residence. And in a larger sense, the territorial dominions, right, occupied by a community or even waste and unpeopled sections. Wait, time out. So a country can have unpeopled sections. We're going to come back to that. A country can have unpeopled sections. You know, like a country, let's say it's like a country has wastelands, or it's a desert, or maybe the country don't have no people at all. The Empire of Morocco hasn't had no people since 1956. The Empire of Morocco has been what? Unpeopled. The Empire of Morocco has been unpeopled since 1956. You see the Black's Law Dictionary is teaching us, if you pay attention and actually pronounce the words and don't skim, you'll catch what they're saying. I'm going to make more sense of this word unpeopled. I'm going to prove this, that a country can have no people and still be considered a country. Why? Because a country is a legal personality all by itself. It don't need no people. The people are just another subsection of the country. So you got country, then you got people, then you got government. And the country is also known as what? A territory, because the territory is encompassed by the country. So the people only play a part of the definition of country. But a country is a legal person all by itself. Okay? All right, listen, pay attention. We got to break this down because now that we found out the ICJ said the Empire Moroccos owe taxes, now we got to figure out, okay, if the Empire Moroccos owe taxes, then who's going to collect the taxes? Got to be Moroccans. But the Empire Morocco as a name is a noun, right? Person, place, thing or idea. Countries of person, place, thing or idea. Time out. Countries what? A country is what? A place. It's a noun. A place. So a noun is what? Person, place, or idea. It's a thing. It's a noun. They're telling you a country is a noun. Place. You follow me? That's why I got it in blue. We got to go deeper. Okay, I know Moors are sensitive, but listen up. We got to learn, we got to study, all right? Look. We have to increase our levels of degrees. So I know you're sensitive, but we got to do this. Okay. Brother Drake from the top.
The 8 parts of speech are as follows. Moorish, adjective, not a nationality. Moorish American, adjective, not a nationality. Black, adjective, not a nationality. African American, adjective, not a nationality. Indigenous, adjective, not a nationality.
All right, so Moorish is an adjective. Moorish American with the hyphen is an adjective. Black is an adjective. African American with the hyphen is an adjective. And indigenous is an adjective. None of them are nouns. They're descriptions of something. Listen, no.
Moorish, adjective. Moorish, 1. Relating to or characteristic of the Moors.
Pause, read again.
Moorish, adjective. Moorish is relating to or characteristic of the Moors.
So Moorish is an adjective. So the adjective means is relating to the characteristics of Moors, meaning what? Ethnicity or culture. But it does not tell you the nationality. Therefore, Moorish is an adjective because Moorish means you haven't potentially pledged your allegiance to the Empire Morocco to be recognized as what? Moroccan. Moroccan is what? The noun. So every time you tell someone you're Moorish, you really said an adjective. Listen, Nova.
Black, adjective. Of the color black, see black entry 2, sense 2. 2. Of or relating to any of various population groups having dark pigmentation, of or relating to African American people or their culture.
From the top.
Black, adjective. Of the color black, see black entry 2, sense 2. Of or relating to any of various population groups having dark pigmentation, of or relating to African American people or their culture.
All right, so black's an adjective. It's a description, what? Relating. It's relating to something. It's relating to a population. It relates to it, but that's not necessarily a nationality. It's not a noun. See the word relating? Relating to? Okay, let's go back to Moorish. Moorish is what? Relating to. You see that? Yeah, it's in relations to, but it's not the real McCoy. Because it's not a noun. You got to see how they're writing this. They're trying to tell you something. So when Moore say, oh, blacks an adjective, you notice the so-called master teachers never had you look up the word Moorish? Because you sitting there with a black person like, hey man, read this dictionary, see right here, black's an adjective. What if that same black person said, yeah, let me turn the page. You see right here, Moorish says adjective too. What you got to say about that, Mr. Moorish American? How are you going to explain yourself when you're telling black people that they're adjectives and Moorish itself is an adjective? This is why you never see your so-called master teachers telling you to read the word Moorish out loud. Because they always tell you what? You got to start with the 8 parts of speech. Isn't that what we were taught? That's why they won't tell you to read the word Moorish. Listen, indigenous. No.
Indigenous is an adjective originating or occurring naturally in a particular place, native. 2, of people inhabiting or existing in a land from the earliest times or from before the arrival of colonists.
All right, so indigenous from the top.
Indigenous is an adjective. 1, originating or occurring naturally in a particular place, native. 2, of people inhabiting or existing in a land from the earliest times or from before the arrival of colonists.
All right, so indigenous is an adjective. So you hear Moore say, yeah, man, we indigenous. What the hell does that mean? Because indigenous is not a noun, so you're using it like it's a noun. You refer to yourself as indigenous like it's a noun. But it's an adjective, it's describing something, but it's not describing the noun. We got to do this, we got to become wordsmiths. Got to understand our own vernacular. Listen, got to hear what? Merriam-Webster's African American. Now, check this out right up the top. Well, first of all, why are we going over this? Because if we are owed taxes, who are the taxes owed to? The country. But the country is a noun. Because the country is a place. Okay, then what's the nationality of the country? Empire Morocco. Moroccan. Moroccan is what? A noun. We're failing at the first 2 boxes of recognizing what the hell is the noun. But we're sitting here specializing on what the hell is adjectives. We'll never collect no taxes and we don't even know what the hell the nouns are. So first we got to figure out what mistakes have we made with this word adjective. And then we got to start moving towards the noun. This is an exercise in what? 8 parts of speech. You want to collect taxes? Then you better become a what? A noun. Listen, check this out. African American is a noun. Well, duh. Watch. Isn't African a noun automatically because you got South Africans? That's a nationality. South African is a noun, correct? Correct. So African is a noun. Is an American a noun? Yes, because that's the nationality of the United States of America, correct? Yes. So automatically African American is a noun because both of those words are what? Nouns. Okay, now you have to start seeing the trickery. Pay close attention. Moors must become wordsmiths. You're going to learn something. I've gone over this before. It's a refresher. Okay, Nova.
Variants, or commonly African-American.
Well, time out. Why they go from the African American now and automatically they're telling you, oh, we're going to talk about some variants. Okay, or less commonly African American. All of a sudden now they added what? A hyphen. You see the hyphen? But wait, when no hyphen up here. So what they're doing, they're changing the context. The context based upon this itty bitty hyphen is changing the usage of the word. Because when you speak English, you say African American. But when you write it, if the legislators write it as African American with a hyphen, it's adjective. But if you write it without that hyphen, it's what? Noun. But when you're just speaking to each other, you don't know how someone's talking to you. Are they calling you an African American with a hyphen or an African American without the hyphen? So what do you have to do? You have to go look at legislation and laws to see how they're identifying you, etc. Watch this. Watch for the trickery. Nova.
Plural, African Americans or African hyphenated Americans.
Oh, now they're putting it together. Plural, African Americans, no hyphen. Also, African Americans with a hyphen. See how they're telling you the truth right in front of your face? They're building you up. They're building up. They're breaking it down. Okay, Nova.
An American or an American of African and especially of Black African descent. Often, specifically, a direct descendant of Africans who were enslaved in the U.S. or in any area that became part of the U.S.
You became a part of the U.S. U.S. what? Sovereignty and jurisdiction, because you became what? Naturalized. And now they're giving you some adjective name called African American because you became American by naturalization. Now watch this. About to get very interesting. Okay, right here, Nova.
African American as an adjective, variants or less commonly African American hyphenated.
So the adjective, when are they saying it's an adjective? When they add this hyphen. So they throw you off and say, oh, African American adjective. Wait, I thought African American without the hyphen was a noun. So they put it down here. All the variants are less commonly African American hyphen. So really the hyphen creates what? An adjective. They're telling you right in front of your face. Because the usage changed once they add the hyphen. Now the usage of the word changes the context, which changed the entire context of a sentence. And if it changed the context of a sentence, it just changed the context of a paragraph. If it changed the context of the paragraph, it changed the context of the contract. So you see the hyphen, adjective. Oh, but there's more. Listen, because we're talking nouns and adjectives. Okay, what do I have up here? Oh, okay. Library of Congress. Library of Congress. I've got the Quran questions for Moorish children. 101s. For who? Who's the 101s for? Questions for Moorish children. So my question, are you teaching your children about the hyphen? No. Listen. Let's go down here. It's going down here. Library of Congress. Morski said, look at the Library of Congress. Okay, sounds good. This is an educational moment. I know Morris is sensitive, but we got to talk about it. Okay, question number 12, Brother Joseph.
12. What is his nationality? Moorish American hyphen.
Next.
13. What is your nationality? Moorish American hyphen.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that's a nationality? Nationalities are what? Nouns. And I just showed you that under African American, they're trying to tell you a little secret that's not so secret, that an adjective is when you add the hyphen and now changes the context of the word. It's no longer a noun. This is a noun. African American without hyphen. It becomes an adjective as soon as you add the hyphen. You go back to Moorish American. See, they don't teach this to children. Moorish American. Hyphen. Compound adjective. Because the word American is a noun, right? Moorish is what? An adjective. So when you add a hyphen, it becomes a compound adjective. Because it was compounded. How did it become compounded? It became a compound word. Because the hyphen made it one word. This is what I've been trying to tell Moorish Americans. You're not Moorish Americans. It can't be a nationality because it's an adjective. And this is why they won't put it in a dictionary. Because they put it in a dictionary like this, because this is what the Library of Congress said. They keep saying this is the gospel. Then as soon as they put in the dictionary, guess what's going to look like? This right here, adjective, African American. So now the dictionary say Moorish is an adjective, and so is Moorish Americans an adjective, and blacks an adjective, and indigenous is an adjective. All these adjectives, Lord have mercy. And you wonder why we're losing. Tell the children the truth. Listen, Nova.
Country, a noun. 1. An indefinite, usually extended expanse of land, region. 2. The land of a person's birth, residence, or citizenship, a political state or nation, or its territory. 3. The people of a state or district, populace, jury.
So a country is what? A noun. A nationality is what? A noun. Listen, so let's take it from the top. Brother Dre.
The 8 parts of speech are as follows. Moorish, adjective, not a nationality. Moorish, American, adjective, not a nationality. Black, adjective, not a nationality. African American, adjective, not a nationality. Indigenous, adjective, not a nationality.
Okay, let's continue. Let's study. We got to study more. This is about study. We got to level up. From the top, Brother Dre.
The 8 parts of speech are as follows. Empire Morocco, noun, the country. Moroccan, noun, true nationality. Moor, noun, short title of the nationality. And Moorish, adjective, the description or ethnicity.
So what did I tell the Moors in class 168? That the Moors have been taking a shortcut. You have not been putting things in proper sequential order. When you say you're Moorish, that's the 4th box. What's the first box you should have started with? Empire Morocco, that's the country, because that's a noun. The number 2, the country then gives you your nationality, which is Moroccan, and Moroccan is a noun, which is the true nationality. And the 3rd box is Moor, and Moor is what? A noun, but it's what? A short title of the nationality of what? Moroccan. And last but not least, Moorish is an adjective, but it's description or ethnicity. So it's okay to say you're Moorish, but first you have to check the first 1, 2, 3 boxes. The Moors are starting right here. 1, 2. You start from the bottom up instead of from what? The top down. This is true. So we have to learn how to specialize in what? The noun. Noun, 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 then adjective. If you're not pledging allegiance, then you're still an adjective. Once you pledge allegiance, you're a noun. You're a person. According to what? 8 parts of speech. And now you're a person of what? A place, because the place is the country, that's another noun. And then you can use the short title of Moor, because that's also a noun, but that's the short title of Moroccan. But if you want to talk about us from a cultural perspective or ethnicity, you say what? Moorish. Listen, Dre.
What's the problem? Moors can't read. Quote unquote, read means to comprehend mentally, to use forensics. For example, MSTA question 14. Why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America.
All right, take it from the top.
What's the problem? Moors can't read. Quote unquote read means to comprehend mentally, to use forensics. For example, MSTA question 14, why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America.
Okay. So Moors can't read. This is our problem. Why? Because we don't know the 8 parts of speech. Oh, we pronounce words very well. But do you know what each one of those words mean? From an 8 parts of speech perspective. So I'll give you an example. Watch this. Watch the interpretations of what I said. This is where Moors get tricked up. It's a trick bag. Watch. Watch how the FBI and the CIA has fooled you with words. Watch. For example, MSTA question, Moorish Science Temple of America, question 14. Why are we Moorish Americans? Hyphen. So the question says, why are we adjectives? I'll read it again. For example, MSTA question 14, why are we adjectives? You see how I'm reading it with forensics? Discernment, 8 parts of speech. See, you get all in your feelings and you feel all bubbly and prideful, right? Oh, we Moorish Americans, but you never said Moorish Americans an adjective, or else you'd have stopped saying it. So when I read it with forensics, because I read, I don't skim. It says what? For example, I'm being redundant. MSTA, Moorish Science Temple, question 14. Why are we adjectives? I can't say it enough. Because that would have shut down the show right there for the average Moor, who've been telling black people they're adjectives. And listen, because we are descendants of Moroccans. Oh, Moroccans are noun. And born in America. But wait, time out. See, the FBI is at play here. So you're Moroccans, that's the noun. Born in America. The average person, when they get to the end, automatically assumes America meant what? United States of America. Did it say United States of America? No. It said America. And this is why Moors keep running around saying they're the true Americans, because they think they've been born in a continent. Because they think America is the continent, in which it is. But the continent does not bestow or grant nationality. So you wasn't born in a continent, you was born under the sovereignty and jurisdiction of a country. And that country was called the United States of America, and the nationality was Americans. And that's how you end up being Americans, even though you were Moroccans. But you see the play on words? Somebody been lying to you, telling you your nationality came from you being named after the continent. You can't be named after a continent. So when Moore said, I relinquished my citizenship in the United States. I ain't a citizen of the United States no more. Okay, sounds good. Tell me the name of the country you pledged your allegiance to. Tell me the name of the country that let you fill out an application to be recognized as a national of said country. Tell me the name. Because if you turn around and say it's America, you sound like a damn fool, because America's a continent. The foolishness of what these so-called master teachers have taught the Moors. The master teacher kept saying, you see all this continent's America. Yeah, and what are you trying to say? That makes us all Americans. What? Continents don't bestow nationality. You need to take all them videos off of YouTube of any damn Moor telling you that your nationality is American because of the name of the continent. The foolishness. Listen, You're Moroccans. You've been naturalized as Americans because the United States of America, the country, gave you that nationality of American. Listen, Brother Dre.
America is a continent and not a country. United States of America is a country and not a continent. Empire Morocco is a country and not a continent. Continents are not sovereign. Continents do not have jurisdiction. Countries are sovereign. Countries have jurisdiction.
From the top again.
America is a continent and not a country. United States of America is a country and not a continent. Empire Morocco is a country and not a continent. Continents are not sovereign. Continents do not have jurisdiction. Countries are sovereign. Countries have jurisdiction.
Doesn't that just make sense? Common sense? But you gotta understand, these so-called master teachers, they miseducated you. It's absolute propaganda when they told you that you're a true American because you're named after the land, and then they said the land was what? America. No, you're named after a country that happens to be in what? A continent. And Moors don't know the distinction between what? Countries and continents. And this is why you never tried to reestablish the Empire Morocco, because you never recognized it as a what? Country. This is the problem. You must admit this. Look, let me say this for the record, because Moors are sensitive. I too was a Moorish American. For 3 years. I too was eating them stupid peanut butter sandwiches. I too fell for the banana in the tailpipe, so don't feel bad. I fell for it too, because I didn't have no options. I was just in fellowship instead of scholarship. But once I started getting the scholarship, I realized the so-called master teachers was full of crap. And this is why they keep talking about peanut butter sandwiches, because they feeding you a bunch of crap that looks like peanut butter. You eating crap sandwiches, not peanut butter. Listen. Okay. What I have up here? Continent. You see this image? What's missing? The names of countries. So when you say, I'm American, because I'm from the continent of America, tell me what country gave you that name when there's no countries on this image. When somebody tell you, you see this here, this is America, and this right here is Central America, and this is South America, and the surrounding islands, we're all Americans. Isn't this what we were taught? Yes. That's propaganda. What is propaganda? Misinformation. And dare I say, disinformation, D-I-S information. What is disinformation? When you're what? Willfully lying to the people intentionally. When you already know continents don't give you nationality, only countries. See, there's no country names up there. Therefore, there's no nationalities up there. If there's no country, there's no nationality. No one is named after a continent. Everybody's named after a country, even South Africa. Named its people South Africans. But why? Because the country decided to call itself South Africa. And it bestowed South African nationality on the people, but that name came from the country and not from a continent. And this is why when you look at Africa, only one country has the nationality of African. 1 out of 55 countries has the nationality of African. Because all the other countries gave their people a totally different what? Nationality. Nigerians are Nigerians from Nigeria. They say they're Africans, but when they use the word African, they use it from the perspective of what? Adjective. Because they're talking about ethnicity and culture of Pan-African ideology. Pan-African is an ideology that we're all in this together based on ethnicity and culture, but it has nothing to do with nationality. Not until they have what? When this whole continent is called what? The United States of Africa as a country, then everybody will be African by what? Nationality, because they got it from who? The country. This is too easy. Therefore, the same thing applies over here. No one can be American unless an American country called the United States of America calls you American. And this is why nobody in the continent calls themselves Americans but the citizens of the United States of America. But the foolishness of your so-called master teachers told you everybody in this continent and all the islands were Americans. And this is how the FBI and CIA fooled you. And they got you to keep calling yourself by the nationality of your stepmother and stepfather who adopted you. See, the trick was to get the Moors not to call themselves Moroccans. Because the Moroccans' country was in a shallow grave. There was no Moroccans after 1956. So automatically the Moors just called themselves Americans because they was either too lazy or they surrendered to keep calling themselves Americans. And they put the COINTELPRO agents in charge of our communities to keep telling we're Americans or black or Native American. There's no such thing as a Native American on planet Earth. Native American is not a nationality. Tell me a country called Native America. It don't exist. The Americans aren't native, they're British subjects who were seeking refuge and asylum in this continent. They became Americans. They went from British to American. But ain't no such thing as a Native American because the word American is a brand new word on planet Earth. The word American didn't even come into the lexicon until the year 1507. How can that be native? The word American didn't become a nationality of a country until after 1776. So how can it be native? Ain't no damn body Native American. Because America's a continent. You may be Native Cherokee. You may be Native Moroccan. But you sure as hell ain't Native American because the word American is a colonist word. Listen, I ain't done. Let's go deeper. We'll be here for a while. Listen. Okay, we're looking at a treaty. This is the Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of what? States. Because we just finished talking about continents and what? Countries, but countries are states. So now this is the duty of states. Did it say duties of continents? Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of Continents? No. It's the rights and duties of what? States. People are named after states. I'm building up. Pay attention. So what was one of the basic, right, just general definitions under Article 1 of this treaty that the United States of America and other countries were affiliated to? This is a multilateral treaty. Article 1, Brother Dre.
Article 1, the state as a person of international law should possess the following qualifications. A permanent population. B, a defined territory. C, government. And D, capacity to enter into relations with the other states.
One more time.
Article 1, the state as a person of international law should possess the following qualifications. A permanent population. B, a defined territory. C, government. And D, capacity to enter into relations with the other states.
All right, so Article 1. This is so easy. Watch this. Article 1. The state as a person in international law. Well, time out. Did it say the continent as a person of international law? No, but more think they're named after a continent. But you're actually named after what? A state. The state as a person of international law. So international law recognizes states as persons. Therefore, it has a standalone legal personality all by itself. That's where everything starts. With the state. But the state oversees what? A portion of the earth's surface. Of the what? Continent. Without the continent, there's what? No state. But it's the state that gets to make the what? Lawful claim to a portion of the continent, i.e. a portion of the earth's surface. Therefore, that's called a place. Listen, I'm building you up. The state as a person in international law should possesses the following qualifications. So these are qualifications of a state. So it says A. A is what? What's A? A permanent population. What time out? So a state should have a population. That makes sense, right? You sure about that? Under the definition of country, hold up. Under the definition of country, it says under country can be unpeopled sections. Oh. So you don't necessarily need people in the section, and you don't necessarily need people in the what? Region of the earth. So the country don't necessarily need people in the sections or regions. Why? Because the country can stand alone by itself without a population. Because it's a legal personality by itself. Listen. So it says right here, a state should have a population. Should. Did it say shall? Did it say must? No, it said what? Should. You must study words. In other words, there was no mandate. It could be unpeopled. What can be unpeopled? The state, i.e. the region. But it should also have what? A defined territory. So it should have some form of some borders, right? To say at least this is my land. Territory means land. And then C, a government. The country should have territory, and the country should have a government. And what? It should be able to get in relations with other states. What's getting in relations with other states? This state is getting in relations with other states, so it's a state on state relations. Listen, it's a what? State on state relations. But it should have a population, and it should have a government. And it should be able to get in relations with other what? States. So are these two countries in relations? Yes, because they've signed treaties, right? And the treaties are what? Unbroken, right? But what is actually broken? There's no government. And there's no people of the Empire of Morocco up until when? Technically, more specifically speaking, de jure speaking, June 2024, when the Empire of Morocco reinstated the government and reinstated the people as Moroccans. The Constitution recognized the Moors as Moroccans again, as descendants of Moroccans. You see? Listen, now, before I click on this next part, we're going to talk about the Vatican. Some people are sensitive. We're going to talk about it anyway. Okay. Here's the Vatican City. It's an image of it. That's the building right? The Pope's in. What type of building is that? Moorish architecture. Therefore, it's what? A Habu property that's recognized in our treaties. So the Pope's sitting in a Moorish building. That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration, because all the buildings on planet Earth are Moorish buildings, including the one the Pope's in. Listen. So the Vatican, they call it Vatican City, but it's actually a country, you can see at the bottom, landlocked sovereign state. So the Vatican is a sovereign state, an independent sovereign state. Okay. So the Vatican now is a state. Okay, listen, pay attention. Pay attention. The Vatican has been recognized by other countries as being a state. Brother Dre.
As of now, 184 countries have full diplomatic relations with the Holy See, which includes the European Union and the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. Additionally, 87 countries maintain embassies to the Holy See, with all embassies located in Rome.
Pause, read again.
As of now, 184 countries have full diplomatic relations with the Holy See, which includes the European Union and the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. Additionally, 87 countries maintain embassies to the Holy See, with all embassies located in Rome.
Okay, so time out. 184 countries have recognized the Vatican as being what? A state, i.e. a country. Well, I got no problem with that. All countries have a right from a political perspective to recognize another country. Right? But that means the Vatican had to declare its independence to be recognized then as a country. But watch this. 184 countries recognize the Vatican as being a state. But wait a minute. There's 193 member states of the Charter of the United Nations. So 184 out of 193 recognize it as being a state. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? But 184 out of 193 states, that's a 95% rate of countries who are members of the United Nations who have recognized the Vatican as a state. Well, time out. Let's do some qualifications. Brother Dre.
Vatican City State was created by the Lateran Treaty, stipulated between the Holy See and Italy on 11 February 1929 and ratified on 7 June 1929. Its personality as sovereign entity under international law, separate from the Holy See, is universally recognized.
So, Italy was the first to recognize the Vatican in 1929 as the first country to recognize the Vatican as a country. You follow me? And after that, everyone else followed suit. All up until like the year 2017, the last country to recognize the Vatican as a country, I think it was the Mauritania country. So now 184 countries recognize the Vatican. Starting in what year? 1929. But in 1933, the Montevideo Treaty came out, right? Right? Listen. What did the Montevideo Treaty say in Article 1, Brother Dre?
The state, as a person of international law, should possess the following qualifications. A permanent territory. A permanent population. B, a defined territory. C, government. And D, capacity to enter in relations with other states.
Okay, let's just pause right there. Keep that in mind. A state should possess a population. Listen, Dre.
Vatican City, the world's smallest country, holds a unique record. No child has ever been born there. Established on February 11th, 1929, this independent city-state has never witnessed a birth within its borders.
Wait a minute. Read that again.
Vatican City, the world's smallest country, holds a unique record. No child has ever been born there. Established on February 11, 1929, this independent city-state has never witnessed a birth within its borders.
So since 1929, since it was recognized as a state, no one's ever been born there. Time out. Has there been any birth? Can women give birth in the Vatican City, Brother Dre?
No, a woman cannot give birth in Vatican City. There is no hospital in Vatican City, which has led to a 96-year record of no births. Pregnant women are referred to surrounding hospitals in Rome for medical care, making it effectively impossible to give birth there.
One more time.
No, a woman cannot give birth in Vatican City. There is no hospital in Vatican City, which has led to a 96-year record of no births. Pregnant women are referred to surrounding hospitals in Rome for medical care, making it effectively impossible to give birth there.
So in other words, no one's ever been born in the country of the Vatican country since 1929. Never been a birth. Anybody about to have a baby got to go over the border back into Italy, because Rome is in Italy, and that baby is recognized as Italian. But there's no such thing as a Vatican country having a nationality. There's never been anybody born in the Vatican country since 1929. It's going on 100 years. No one's ever been born. Well, wait, time out. But I thought a state should have a population. The Vatican don't have a population because ain't nobody ever been born there. So how are people holding a government office of a country, and those people holding the office don't even have the nationality of the country because ain't nobody ever been born in the Vatican? There's no birth certificates. Zero. Why am I bringing this to your attention? Okay, listen to me, Moors. This is very important for the Moors to understand. You see, the United States of America is going to try to use what's called their legal arguments, their legal defense. When we take the United States of America to the International Court of Justice, listen to me, I'm talking strategy. What's potentially one of the legal arguments the United States of America will try to say about the Empire of Morocco? Because they'll say, oh, these Moors are trying to do what? Be at varying stages of advancement to rise up the Empire of Morocco with their government and quote unquote population. Well, the Vatican don't have no population. In 184 countries recognize it as a country, and then after that, sign treaties with them. No women can even give birth in the country. So when the United States of America says, we got to challenge these Moors are rising up. These Moors are restoring the Empire of Morocco. They're putting together 3 branches of government. The Sultan's back. They got a population. What are we going to do? They said, oh, I got an idea. Let's say there can't be no Empire Morocco. All they got is 100 Moroccans. How the hell can you have 100 Moroccans and say you got a population of a country? Oh, let's take it to the board. Right here, what do I have? I have what's called destroying and crushing the legal arguments of the United States of America before they even get out the starter's box with that foolishness to say you got to have a large population in order to have a country. Listen, a state is a person in international law, correct? It can stand alone by itself. When we read the Treaty of Montevideo, Article 1, it said what? Number 1, first you needed a state, right? I.e. a country. A state is a person in international law. It can stand alone by itself. Number 2, it said you needed what? A permanent population, commonly known as what? We the people. Number 3, it said you needed what? A defined territory. Territory is land. Number 4 said what? You needed a government, which is technically what? 3 branches of government. And number 5, it said the ability to enter into relations with other states through what? Treaties, etc. So let's take a look at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 propositions. Check it out. We're talking legal argument. This is how you destroy and you crush the United States when they try to come to the table and say, y'all ain't got enough population to say you got a country. Oh, check it out. This is how you destroy them. We the people. Okay, VC stands for what? Vatican City. Okay, or Vatican country. So under people or population, how many people does the Vatican country have? 0. Let's say the Empire of Morocco has 100 people. Let's say the United States of America has 330 million people. But you see what happened? Once the United States of America recognized the Vatican and had 0 population, guess what that created? A custom and usage that says countries don't have to have a population. It can be 0. So the United States of America and all 184 countries recognize the Vatican as having 0 population. Therefore, they changed the definition or standards of what population has to be. So now the standard, what? What is the standard? Because standards is what? The floor, right? Standards just create a baseline and then you can always go up from there. So the standard is for a country, you can have anywhere from, I guess, 0 to 330 million as your population. That's the standard. Recognized by what? International law. Because 184 countries who were members of the United Nations recognized the Vatican country as having 0 population. They say, we got no problem with that. Good to know. Because guess what? The Empire of Morocco, if it's only got 100 Moroccans, guess what? 100 Moroccans is 100%, 100 times bigger than the population of the Vatican country. This is how you crush someone's legal argument. So you tell the United States of America, excuse me, y'all got 300 million people, and you in your own treaty, a Treaty of Montevideo, said a country should have a population. Then you turn around and recognize the Vatican country as having 0 population. Can you explain yourself? They can't explain it. Why? Because another 183 countries did the same thing. Recognized the country with 0 population, and they had a population in nearly 100 years. And they signed treaties with said country and with no population. Women can't even give birth in that country. Listen. Number 3, territory, which is land. The Vatican company, Vatican City, do they have territory? Well, yes. Right, because they got borders. It's called the Vatican. The Empire of Morocco, do we have territory and land? Yes, because it's called the Empire of Morocco. It's a country. Does the United States of America have land territory? Yes. So all these are yeses. Okay, number 4, about government, 3 branches. Does the Vatican country have a government? Yes, called the Holy See. Does the Empire of Morocco have a government? Yes, we got 3 branches of government and the Sultan. Does the United States of America have a government? Yes, it's called what? The United States Federal Corporation. So yes, under this category, number 4, government, everybody checks the box, yes. Number 5, do states have ability to get into relations with other states? Well, yes. The Vatican country has been signing treaties, so they've been getting into relations. The Empire of Morocco already had treaties. Treaty of Peace and Friendship, Treaty of Madrid, Treaty of Acta Algeciras, etc. We've been signing treaties as what? A country. It's a country name. United States of America, do they have treaties and relations with other people? Yes. So, number 1, country. Everybody's got a country. Everybody got land. Everybody got government. Everybody got the ability to get into relations with other states. However, Vatican has no population. And the Moroccan government may only have 100 people, but it's 100 times bigger than the Vatican's population. Therefore, if we're 100 times bigger than theirs, that means we're far exceeding their population. You see, this is why in international law they could never define what a population has to be of a country in order to what? Decolonize. You see, So as the Empire of Morocco starts to decolonize, they can never say, well, y'all can't decolonize, you only got 100 people. That's BS. Because the Vatican ain't got no damn body. So your legal arguments are what? Void. You see? That's how you destroy their legal argument. Because this is what they're trying to do in advance. You crush them right off the top and you bring out these reference points. So check this out at the bottom. It says 184 UN member countries recognize the Vatican as a country in the absence of a population. 95% of the countries of the UN agree that a country and its government can exist without a specified number of people or population. You see that? Mm-hmm. So if the Empire of Morocco starts to decolonize, never worry about somebody saying, oh man, y'all ain't got nothing but 5 people. We got 5 people more than the Vatican. Oh, y'all ain't got nothing but 100 people. We got 100 people more than the Vatican. Y'all ain't got nothing but 1,000 people. We got 1,000 people more than the Vatican. You see, they can't win because 0 ended up being the standard. So it's 0 to what? Whatever. Like right now, China's got what? 1.4 billion people. So what's the standard? 0 to 1.4 billion. Anywhere in between. Includes what? 100. It falls into what? Sphere. 100 falls within the sphere of standards of international law because all 184 countries changed the standards of what population can and cannot be regarding a country. You cannot determine what a country's population is. That's not one of the rules of thumb. You can't determine the size of the country. Did you know the Vatican is so small, it's barely bigger than Six Flags, the amusement park, barely. It's nearly 0.17 square miles. 0.017 square miles, it's not even a full square mile. It's less than a quarter of a mile squared. It's about the size of a Six Flags amusement park. You can literally walk from one side of the Vatican to the other in less than like 15 minutes. You can walk from one side of that country's border to the other side of that country's border in 15 minutes. That's how small it is. Why? It's because it's just a made-up country out of nowhere. That way it could sign treaties. Because guess who can only person be parties to the treaties? Only states. And this is why it had to create itself as being a state. And that way, it could sign treaties. All right? So, it's important to understand that as we start to decolonize, as I start to close out, we're going to get into deeper stuff next class. Next class, I'll teach you about how the Sultan was recognizing the Charter of the United Nations. Because as we started to talk about collecting taxes, you have to know the law and history. You have to know the law and history. To say you want to collect taxes in the absence of knowing what the damn history and law is foolishness. We have to know everything from A to Z if in fact we already can prove that they owe us the taxes. Okay, now that we know they owe us the taxes, let's take our time and figure out why do they owe us the taxes. That way we understand our legal arguments when we start to enforce the rights to collect taxes. Because as I start to close out, I'll take you back to the Treaty of France and the Sultan. And one of the responsibilities of France is the Treaty Affairs of 1912. What was France supposed to do? France was supposed to do what? Collect the taxes. Right? Okay, check it out. Nova from the top. Article 7.
Article 7. The government of the French Republic and the government of His Sharifian Majesty reserve unto themselves the right to determine by mutual agreement the basis of a financial reorganization which, while respecting the rights conferred upon bondholders of the Moroccan public loans, shall make it possible to guarantee the commitments of the Sharifian Treasury and to collect regularly the revenues of the empire.
Pause right there. So France was responsible for establishing a Sharifian treasury, right, for the Empire of Morocco, and to do what? And to collect regularly the revenues of the empire. To collect what? Taxes. This was the empire's responsibility. The Moors have to rise up, pledge their allegiance to the Empire of Morocco, take their seats as Moorish officials, and help us to collect the taxes, what? Regularly. Regularly. You see that? And this is why it's important that even though I'm showing you that the United States and France and all the Europeans, they know beyond a reasonable doubt they owe us taxes, but we'll never be able to collect the taxes because we don't know how to make a proper claim. Because we don't know the difference between an adjective and a noun. I end with that. Islam.
Islam.